All right, well, the Speaker had a news conference this week and talked about a lot of stuff, transparency being one of them. What's the story there, Beth?
Yeah, so the House has led on this initiative. They've tried to put in different vetting processes for earmarks that go through the budget. These are
pork barrel spending.
Yes, it's also known as that, Tim.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so the House has been trying to crack down on that, get a little more vetting of these projects, and the Senate hopped on board later this year before the budget passed. But everything they've done so far is by agreement or by deal or handshake deal in that sense. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to cement it into state law to require this before earmarks are passed. But there is, the devil is in the details in those things. And the Senate package that passed, it only requires a 10-day advance of budget passage for disclosure of those earmarks. Speaker Matt Hall said that is too short a time period. He wants a longer time period. He threw out 90 days, but said it could be different windows of time, but it has to be longer than 10 days.
Well, the debate that the Republicans were on a crusade. Senate position was, we'll vote on this stuff, or we'll let you know what those projects are after we vote on it. Mr. Hall said, well, time out, that's sort of not in the right order. So now, how did they find a middle ground here, or do we niff-naw for a while?
Well, it looks like it's going to be closer to what what House Republicans have been asking for. If you talk to Senate Democrats, they'll say they originally led the way by starting this earmark transparency thing, where after the fact, these budget requests become public later on. The departments let these known reports that get filed. House Republicans this year said, no, we're going to do this up front. We're going to have a tab on our website. They got the Senate to agree to that near the end of the budget process this month. But now, to Beth's point, I think it's going to come down to, okay, but how far ahead is that notice going to happen? Even ahead of the Senate vote, you saw Republicans try to amend the bill to, I believe, include a 60-day notice. Senate Democrats shot that one down, and now Republicans are saying 90 days. So wherever that falls in between, I think is going to really be the sticking point here.
This is resolvable.
This is great. Yeah, look at those trivia questions. Did everyone see my new award? Look at this. You want to bring it up here? Someone should bring it up. I don't know. Why don't you bring it up so we can show it to the press and all the people watching on the live stream. The Midwesterner's not here today, so that might hurt our ratings, but look at this beautiful award. Why don't you come up, Brandy? You can hold it, make a cameo. Brandy. How many years have you been here, Brandy? 25 years?
20.
20 years. We have longevity that no one, hey, no, you got to keep it up here. We have longevity that no one has in the House Republicans. I was giving out the awards yesterday. The staff have been here a long time. This beautiful vase was given to me by the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. I am their Legislator of the Year. I'm the only one that received this award, and I was talking to them, and they said, this was the easiest decision we've ever made. We only gave one award, and we gave it to you. And here it is. I wanted the media to say, because if I don't bring it, you guys won't acknowledge it. This is a beautiful award. And I told you, I have many of these that they want to give me, and I haven't had time to accept the meetings because I've been negotiating so many bipartisan deals. This is a beautiful award, so thank you for bringing that up for the press, Brandy. But anyway, that was an easy one. So if you remember when we did the walk-off, there were three things we were trying to achieve in the walk-off. We were trying to save the restaurant industry and tipped workers, protecting the tip wages. We did that. And then we did one better. We got no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. And one thing the MRLA told me was, not only did you get you saved tip workers, but you doubled down and got them no tax on tips. And they said, so this was very easy. All of the workers wanted you to get this award. We wanted to end they wanted to do this where you didn't have paid sick leave because you didn't have a job. And so we got rid of that, and we protected paid sick leave for every Michigan worker, but they're also going to have a job to go to. And then the third thing, and I saw, Steve Frisbee, you were big on this. He even got a PA on this, which was to fix our local roads. We fixed our local roads. That was the third reason for the walk-off. We had to dump Jim Hodsma, bring in Steve Frisbee, and he led on it. And Steve, you even got that bridge done. I saw this video of Hodsma where he's standing up and he's like, if you vote for me, I will fix this bridge. And then he was there 6 years and he never fixed the bridge. You were there like two bridges. You were there like 6 months and you fixed the bridges. You already got the money to fix the bridges. So he's an effective guy. But anyway, we fixed the local roads and bridges, getting a bipartisan deal to do that. So we accomplished all three of those things, and that's why there's so many groups lining up to give me their awards. And the one I received this week was from the MRLA. And I did want to thank Jordan Hermani. She's not here today, but I read her story this week, and she said HEAT, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. She admitted that's what it's called, and it passed today. And I remember standing here with many of the press, and they had a lot of skeptical questions. They didn't believe me this was going to happen. I said, we're never going to violate our House rule. We are going to implement HEAT. There will be disclosure on pork spending moving forward, and we've achieved it, and now it's going to the governor. So now, I wanted to do 90 days. The Senate Democrats wanted to do after the governor signs the bill, and many of the press actually reported that in a positive way. I don't know why. And then they were at 2 days. We thought that was silly. Then they were at 10 days. So I was watching off the record, and I was watching Tim Skubic, your dean, and he said, why don't they just agree on 45 days? And I said, you know what, that's interesting. And so I talked to the governor, and the governor came out and said, let's do 45 days. And I backed her on that, and we got the deal. 45 days. So I want to thank Mr. Skubic for the idea. Because he's saying, Hall's stuck on 90 days. They're stuck on 10 days. Why don't they just do 45 days? I said, he's been around a long time. He's a smart guy. Maybe we'll do 45 days. So it should be 90 days, but we've agreed to 45 days. That's much better than the 10 days or 2 days or 0 days that the Democrats wanted. we'll do the 45 days, and it will improve the process. I cannot tell the media enough of how difficult it's been to get the Democrats to do any of this. I mean, when we were doing the budget, the Democrats, they didn't care about any ethics, accountability, or transparency. The only thing they cared about was shoving pork in the budget. And you see that. I mean, all these ideas that the Democrats present to you guys, they didn't fight for any of those things in the budget. The only thing they fought for was more pork spending. Now, we cut the pork spending 87% in the budget, as many of you know. It's only $160-some million in the budget, and we forced them to disclose all of it. But now we've made it permanent, and we're going to move forward permanent, where there will be 45 days. If you have a pork project, you must disclose it 45 days in advance. You must tell us the public purpose. You must put your name on it. You must tell us who it's going to, and it cannot be a for-profit corporation. And that'll give us all some time to look it over, vet it, and make sure that this is a good use of public dollars. We want to get value for your dollars as taxpayers, and this will do that with the 45 days. So yeah, this is a really, and I think everyone will agree, I'm sure all of the reporters will agree, this is the most important ethics, accountability, and transparency legislation to move through the House and Senate and will be signed by the governor in many years. This is real ethics, accountability legislation. It really is. And transparency, it's real. And this is going to make the budgets a lot better. And my hope is in the future I won't have a Democrat leader who comes to me with some list of things. I say, what are these things? And she says, I don't know. I have no idea what these things are. I will get back to you. That's not the way we should be doing pork projects in the budget. So we'll see, 45 days. And then, you know, we'll see how it does. But big news, that's big. And we don't try to do, you know, there's a lot of people talking about some very small things. All they want to do are very small things, other leaders around here in this town. We're doing big things. I mean, with sick leave, paid sick leave, protecting that for Michigan workers, the tip credit, saving the restaurant industry, heat, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, and fixing the local roads. Those are huge issues, and we've done them all. I would say this is definitely the most productive year for Governor Whitmer during her time, by far. I mean, these are, finally, with the right leadership in the House, big things are happening. So we're really happy to see that. And then I just, you know, I know today we moved a very important bill to protect, well, we had two bills, both focused on security for our legislators. One is really going to allow, you know, for me as a speaker to do more to protect legislators from threats, allow an expansion of the jurisdiction of the House sergeants so we can do more to protect our members from threats, and we can investigate threats, and we can hopefully actually solve some of these cases where people threaten elected officials. And then secondly, we had the legislation that would allow us to remove the home address of some of the elected officials from some public records. And you know, I won't say who, but there was a reporter in the room who gave me an idea, and we made an amendment based on that idea. So now the spouse's employer's name will not be removed. So if you want to know who the spouse's employer is, you can find out. And I'm still waiting for that reporter to write that Jocelyn Benson's husband is a lobbyist, but if this is true, we will know which it is. He's not a good lobbyist, but he is a lobbyist. The spouse's employer will be known. It will not be protected. So hopefully that reporter will write that Jocelyn Benson's husband is a lobbyist. What's that?
Oh, he canceled his registration.
So the question that was asked of me last week was false. Interesting. Okay, all right. Well, we still made the amendment, and so, you know, that's two examples of reporters making a difference in public policy. I mean, that's what a lot of you work for. That's good. So you both are making a difference. We're taking your ideas and we're making it into law. I wanted to talk a little bit about some bills that got introduced today, and I'm going to bring up our two members to talk about them. But Michigan needs real jobs. So I told our people, I said, you know, all of these programs, they create fake jobs. They're all fake jobs. So, you know, I think Mark Tisdale and Mike Hoadley said, what if we created real jobs, not fake jobs, real jobs? And so they've introduced some legislation today that we've referred to the House Finance Committee, and I'll invite you guys up to talk about it. Okay, whoever wants to come up, you guys come up and talk about it. You want to come up too, Steve? You can. It's fine. All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, go
Speaker.
ahead.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, real jobs, and it was an absolute honor to be chosen to spearhead this, and the Speaker's influence, and having even the governor recognize that it's time to pivot with economic development in Michigan. So what Real Jobs does is creates a 50% tax credit that's captured from the employee withholding tax. And with that, it creates real jobs from high-paying, middle-class jobs by having 150% criteria to the median wage. So what that means is, at the very least, on a full-time job, an annual tax credit of $1,200. That's up to a 12-year capture, or excuse me, a 10-year capture rate. And the biggest benefit to this is it's not corporate welfare, it's not upfront taxpayer money, it is sincerely performance-driven incentives that goes right to the job creators in this state, which is all of our businesses, from the micro businesses to the largest corporations, qualify for this because it starts at job one. So with that, I know Mark has some things to add to that, but just kind of giving the broad strokes of what the program does. But we're real excited to really move forward with this. It's the first element of economic development. And with that, that's kind of a loaded question. When we talk about economic development, there's really 6 major pieces of that we work on and has been tasked by the Speaker, and that's incentives and investment. We have infrastructure, which was handled, I should say the start of handling that in the budget that we passed with a roads plan, putting over $1 billion into our local infrastructure. On top of that, we have energy concerns for bringing in the emerging technologies of tomorrow, regulation reform, which we've been doing with the red tape package, tax reform, which is always going to be a constant work for House Republicans, and then workforce development. Those are going to be the key elements to how we're going to move forward with making Michigan competitive again in this state. So with that, I'll leave the microphone to Representative Tisdale.
Thank you, Mike. Just to reiterate, I think what you can see in the two real jobs bills are the path forward, or the way forward for incentives and economic development in Michigan. This is not upfront money. This is incentives based on performance. It is not limited to simply large employers. Every employer from Main Street right on up to the Renaissance Center in downtown Detroit can participate. It's not giving away or digging into our base. It's crediting against incremental growth, and so we're not mortgaging the future. Speaking of mortgaging the future, one of the things that this package does is it addresses the outstanding balance that we have from the mega credits going back to and prior to 2012. And we're not walking away from the commitment and the deal that we've made, but we're simply going to restructure that and try and get that out in 10 payments over the next 10 years. Based upon the recipients, 7 or 8 companies left that are getting those dollars, maintaining at least 95% of the full-time jobs that they had on the books in September. So hopefully there's no gamesmanship around there, and again, we can issue those rewards or credits as promised. But it's a new time, it's a new opportunity for us to reset, and some of the economic realities in Michigan, in the US, and globally require a kind of reevaluation of where we are and how we move forward on these programs.
Yeah, and I'll just point out, we put this out today, and there was a very good story that was done on it, and I saw right in that story, the Small Business Association of Michigan came right out and endorsed it. They thought it was a great plan. It really helps small business. I've said for a long time we need to get rid of the mega credits. I mean, you look at some of these deals that Jennifer Granholm got us into when she was governor. We're going to pay GM like $300 million a year not to lay off 15,000 people. So if they lay off 14,000 people, they still get the $300 million a year. You look at what Mark Tisdale's come up with, he's looking at it and saying 95% of the jobs. Okay, that's better. And spreading it out over 10 years, that's better. When we were trying to do a deal to fix the roads, that $500 million a year was a significant factor. I tried to get rid of the obligation and to force them onto the corporate income tax. Mark thinks this is a more measured way to do it. But either way that we do it, we need to get better deals for the people of Michigan. We need deals. If we're going to pay GM $300 million, and in this case it'd be much smaller, we should be getting something for the taxpayers of Michigan out of that, which is, not significant layoffs. It seems like GM lays off people quite a bit. I keep reading stories about GM laying off people. So if you want the money, and it's a considerable sum of money over the next few years, then just keep your employees. Don't lay them off. That's I think it makes sense to people. So we're working very hard on those things. This is part of an agreement that I made with the governor and Leader Brinks to say, look, we've defunded SOAR. We've cut a lot of these business attraction funds. Now let's look at what the future of this is going to look like moving forward, and let's try to do something by the end of the year. And this is our good faith attempt to try to do something by the end of the year. Mark's been working hard on this, and Mike Hoadley. I've sat down with Sam Singh and talked to Sam about some of the ideas, and Sam has some very valuable experience coming from his time making good jobs. He was very instrumental in making good jobs with Governor Snyder. So, we value his input as we go through this, and seeing if we can get closer and closer together. And then I'll get in that room with Gretchen Whitmer and I'll make a deal. We'll make a deal and we'll come up with something hopefully by the end of the year. With that, we'll open it up to questions on, real jobs or anything else. So, Beth, go ahead.
The sergeant bill that you guys passed today, there was money in the budget to implement that, right? Do you know what the total was in the budget?
What the what?
What the total funding?
Yeah, my understanding is there was $3 million in the budget, in the supplemental for the House, and $3 million for the Senate in the supplemental, the 25 supplemental for this. You know, and that'll allow us the opportunity to hire more sergeants and get the equipment we need to carry this out. Now, you know, one thing I thought was kind of funny is the Senate actually has a police car. I don't know if you know that. And the only jurisdiction they have is like the parking structure. So it's like, why did you buy a police car and all you can do is drive it up and down the parking structure? So now they'll at least be able to drive that police car somewhere and have jurisdiction to help with the security of residents. So, you know, we'll look at things like that too and see if, you know, if we need those resources. I mean, obviously the governor has a police car and has some things. And so we're going to look at all those things and try to put something together. We've been working with the House Business Office, the House Sergeants. This is something I've actually been working on for quite a while. And then with the recent events in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, the tragic assassination of their former speaker, and also what happened with Charlie Kirk, that's kind of escalated some of these conversations. But I've been working on this for a long time, and I think this will do a lot to improve security for our elected officials from the many threats that are escalating.
When you say we need to hire more sergeants and get equipment to carry this out, what kind of equipment are you talking about?
Well, like if we decide we need police cars or additional things as part of the safety. I mean, as you're talking about providing more safety, you know, you're not just going to have like people in red coats, you know, they don't have red coats anymore, but, you know, right, I mean, we're actually expanding the jurisdiction, right? I mean, if they're going to be providing security, then, you know, we're going to listen to the recommendations that we get from our sergeants and from the House Business Office on how to properly implement that. Since, you know, the role is expanding, there's going to be a need for more equipment, and also, I would say, definitely more sergeants, right? Because the people you're hiring, you know, you need the skill set for some of these additional tasks that are going to be going on as you're doing security, and also investigations, right? I mean, many of these threats against elected officials are not the top priority of these police departments, but for the House sergeants, that will be a very top priority, so we can solve more of these cases and better protect our elected officials. Yeah, Simon. I called on you first because of the great job Jordan did getting your editors to say HEAT, Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan.
Yeah, you know, I think we've heard a lot from the session legislature specifically talking about the politicization of criminal investigations, the weaponization of state governments.
Right.
Are there safeguards in place with this legislation to ensure that perhaps in future legislation that spurious investigations are not ordered by the legislature because against political views?
Well, I think that I think if you read the bill, I mean, these are pertaining to threats to legislators. So, you know, I mean, in order to do this, I mean, this was part of the budget agreement, but in order to do it, you know, we had to work through this with Governor Whitmer and her team. We had to work through this with Winnie Brinks. I mean, you know, some of the earlier versions, you know, the state police had comments on, you know, the governor had comments on, the Senate had comments on. So we had to narrow it a little bit in order to ensure that it was doing the purpose, right? The purpose is to protect elected officials. And in order to do that, you have to expand the jurisdiction and scope of these sergeants. But we're not trying to like have sergeants just pull people over on the side of the road or, you know, investigate things that don't have to do with the security of legislators. So we worked back and forth, got the language right, and now we've got something that I'm confident the governor will sign. And you saw it move through the Senate today. Yeah.
Earmark bills, why wasn't there a requirement added to have earmark requests go through the committee process?
Say that again?
Why wasn't there a requirement added in the negotiation for what these bills looked like at the end why wasn't there a requirement added to have earmark requests go through the committee process?
Yeah, so the way I would look, I mean, there's different perspectives that different legislators have. I think if you look at the committee hearing that Sarah Anthony had in the Senate, it was a joke. I mean, it was just a spreadsheet of a bunch of things that we'd already agreed to put in the budget. Many of them were actually attempts to give senators credit for projects they had nothing to do with. I mean, for example, I know with 100% certainty that Riley Linting is the reason that that Trenton Bridge got done, but yet on their sheet they try to give someone else some of the credit. We saw similar things with things that had nothing to do with Kevin Hertel and other Democrats. So, look, if again, the way I would explain this is it was very difficult to get the politicians to agree to real transparency on the pork spending. They want to spend the pork. They want to spend it so bad that they agreed to this, even though they hate it. And I just decided, like in the negotiation, if I put in a requirement that forces them to have a committee hearing, and they're just going to make it a sham committee hearing, why am I fighting for this so hard? I mean, so we're going to disclose it 45 days. I believe it's a best practice that we should have a committee hearing. You know, that's something that we're going to aspire to. And when we did it in the House, I felt like they were more legitimate committee hearings where someone actually came in and explained what this was and took questions, you know, and the legislators could ask questions. I thought that was a more legitimate hearing than just after the deal was made, putting the spreadsheet on the screen and reading it. I can't force, you know, one thing that they can't tell me what to do, the Senate, and you know, they're a separate branch. We can't tell them what to do. So if they aren't going to have legitimate hearings, then I didn't see the benefit of forcing them to have a hearing. You know, when you're in these negotiations, what you're forced to do is you're forced to look at all of the things you're fighting for and set priorities and say, you know, which 3 or 4 things are the things that matter most. And I thought banning the for-profits mattered more. I thought having a longer disclosure period mattered more. And so getting the form right mattered. So we went through those things, and eventually, you know, one of the gives we gave the Democrats was just fine. We're not going to make you have a committee hearing, but we are going to have committee hearings. And I would encourage them to do it, and maybe you guys in the press can encourage them through your different ways of getting politicians' attention. It's hard. I mean, you guys don't give me the credit for this because you guys have your own bills you're working on. But I'm telling you, you don't know how hard this was to force transparency on pork spending with these politicians. If you really understood and if you were objective, you would give me a lot more credit and praise because this really was a big change. You know, some of you dedicate a lot of your journalism to this subject, and this change is really happening, and it's going to be a big deal. And I'm telling you, with these people up here, no matter what these politicians say when they're in front of you, they did not want to do this. I mean, this was the hardest thing I think that I've done as a legislator, forcing them to actually disclose this pork. So hopefully someday, you know, when I'm not around, you guys will give me credit for it. Yeah.
With regard to the jobs tax credit.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the existing mega credits would get rolled into corporate income tax. Is there anything that prevents a company from receiving both the mega credits existing and this new tax credit? And is there any sort of compliance to ensure that they are in fact delivering on the jobs that they say they are?
Well, let's start with the back first, is delivering on the jobs they say they are. This is a Treasury program, and so they would have to be issuing to the state Treasury Department affidavits, elements of their annual tax returns, indicating that these incremental jobs have in fact been placed, and it's probably not a very good idea to lie to the Treasury Department. Relative to the mega credits and how they will interact, it's a good question, and I'm not sure I have the entire answer to that. What I would advocate for is that the mega credits are a promise that we've made, 12, 13, 14 years ago, and we still have an outstanding balance on those. If you want to grow jobs, if you want to add incremental jobs in the interim, I think that would be wonderful to reward those as well, because we're not digging into our base like we are with the mega credits. It's an incremental job, it's an incremental tax collection, and we can share part of that with the employer. And let me just make it known right now, I also have one of those restaurant and lodging vases.
Nice,
yeah, I can run and get it, but I think it was based on the number of times we go out to dinner. But so anyway.
Nice. Oh, that's good. I mean, good company. And it took him a lot fewer years to win it. You did it a lot faster.
2021.
Great job.
Yeah.
Trying to reframe the state's approach to economic development, what do you see as the future for making shovel-ready sites, site readiness for these projects, and how do you see this legislation, your new initiatives, impacting the monthly townships?
Yeah, so the state's invested a lot of money in those sites. I mean, I read one of your stories. So one of you said it was $240 million, I think, they invested. Does that sound about right? Or you think it was more on the Flint one, the Mundy Township? That's ballpark. That's a lot of money, they've invested in a lot of sites. One thing that we're seeing though is that when they're investing in these sites, they're not getting a lot of buy-in from the communities. They're creating a lot of problems, and it's creating a lot of division in communities. So, I think as we have those conversations in the future, to me, it sounded really good, when we were doing SOAR, it sounded really good, the idea that, you would have these opportunities in some of the Republican districts. But then when you see that actually play out, and it means buying up all this farmland, and building manufacturing plants on it. We have a lot of vacant sites all over the state that won't have that kind of controversy. I mean, if you went into Flint and said, we're going to redevelop this land and we're going to build a site here, you'd have a lot less resistance than if you go into one of these townships that are rural and buy up all the farmland. So, I think we're going to look later. How do we finding sites that actually want this rather than forcing it on these communities and changing the communities. And we have some sites now, and we'll continue to look at that. But I don't see that as part of this deal. I mean, like for us, we're talking about trying to do this before the end of the year. The more topics that we introduce into the conversation, the less likely it's going to get done before the end of the year. So right now we're focused on this, and then we're going to look at sites. And as there's specific challenges that the Whitmer administration is trying to resolve, I'll hear them out on their problems they're trying to solve, and we'll try to help them find solutions. But this is. You see it now with these battery plants and stuff. They're going in these communities, and now they're getting a lot of resistance too. So that's a tough one. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on the site development part, or do you think I covered it, or do you have some thoughts?
You did, but
Yeah.
to piggyback on what the speaker was saying is involve the communities first. When we're talking about community enhancement and we're making investments into a community, and then we can look at brownfield redevelopment. We can look at other investments that are cleaning up blight and other things to make these communities a better place to work, live, and play. But we have to involve the communities first before we force these type of environments on them.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Beth.
So if this bill were to get through the House and the Senate and make it to the governor, it essentially would restructure and deals that these companies had entered into with the state. How is that not breaking a contract with them? And do you have a concern? I mean, I know the Manufacturers Association said yesterday to be cautious because these are contracts and the state will run into some issues if they try to overwork them.
Right. Well, I mean, the Manufacturers Association also wanted to shift all of the taxes onto workers to pay for the roads. I mean, these guys wanted higher gas taxes, higher registration fees, all kinds of things. And, you know, I stood up to them and said, I don't think Michigan workers should pay higher taxes. I think we need to find other solutions. So, you know, they're kind of a negative group sometimes, although I have another award over there from them. You know, they don't like me, but they at least acknowledge my work, something the press won't do. But with them, you know, I read the quote and just said, look, I mean, they want cash, right? And it didn't work. I mean, we gave the cash to all the companies. The Democrats did. They gave them all this cash. GM, right, which is a prominent member of the Michigan manufacturers, and often groups, you know, companies like GM use them as a front, right? They don't want to say it, so they have the Michigan manufacturers. I mean, they've got it pretty good. They got $666 million from the taxpayers to build a battery plant in Delta Township. They sold it to LG. They kept the money. And the rest of it was to go to retooling a plant in Orion to build EVs. They scrapped that, and now they're building Tahoes. They're going to build big trucks and SUVs. But they're keeping the $666 million. Meanwhile, we're paying them $300 million a year in mega credits not to lay off 15,000 workers. Well, of course they're going to want to continue doing that. But you know, we value GM. I value GM. I value the big three. But we have a responsibility, right? We represent the taxpayers of Michigan. And if the taxpayers of Michigan are getting a bad deal, you know, we've got to try to get them a better deal to get them value for their dollars. And if we're going to pay GM hundreds of millions of dollars, then they should at least try to maintain the current levels that they're at of workers and stop laying people off. And the same goes for other companies. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts, but you guys just jump in when you do. Do you have anything else? Are you good, either of you? Go ahead.
I think there needs to be a recognition too that it's a changed environment. It was just in the Wall Street Journal today. Verizon is talking about 15,000 layoffs. They're pulling the plug on EV plants, the big three, all over the place. And here's an opportunity for us to propose and hopefully get passed through the legislature and signed by the governor that you know there are a new set of rules, but we do recognize that we made a commitment and we want to live up to that commitment. When you guarantee money on roads, when you have record funding for schools, when you dramatically increase payments to communities on public safety through the Public Safety Trust, you just have to kind of share that, share the wealth and spread it around a little bit. And as I was quoted in the Detroit News, we just don't have that boatload of money available right now to continue on that level of payments and make these other commitments that the governor and the Senate all agreed upon.
And I'd say, you know, if these companies are really committed to the success of Michigan, they'll take the deal. You know, I had another idea, which was to raise the CIT so high that they would voluntarily, raise the Michigan business tax so high they would voluntarily go on the CIT and forfeit the mega credits. And, you know, if the Michigan manufacturers prefer that, we could go back to that. Now, Mark said, I think we could do it a different way. And, you know, I appointed him chair of the finance committee, and he's working a different way of doing it, which is saying, look, if you guys really want to share in the success of Michigan, if you're, you know, going to help us and be committed to Michigan's success, then we'll still pay you. We're just going to spread it out more so we have more money to spend on public safety and roads and healthcare and public health and all these important things. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. A lot of people like his idea. These guys like his idea better than mine. So we'll see.
One pager here. And it says the program is capped at $50 million annually through 2036. And so would there be any built-in way to see like who is getting this credit for what amount? Is it open? Is the program open to everybody, like LLCs, any and all businesses and any and all industries?
Yeah, so they will have to enter into the agreement, and being that it's a Treasury program, that gives it complete accountability and tracking on that. So if that answers the question.
And so can any business apply regardless of industry, or like
Yes,
they have
any
to be
business can, from a micro business right up to the largest corporation, and the incentive starts on the first job created.
This is on a different topic, but yesterday, 36 school groups filed suit in federal and state court, taking issue with the provision in the budget that required them to waive privilege in the event of a mass casualty event. Do you want to respond to that lawsuit? Or they say that language is unconstitutional.
Right. Yeah. So I haven't looked at it, the specific lawsuit, but I'll just say, with what happened at Oxford, I know like Josh Shriver and others have really been pushing to ensure that that school districts do not interfere with investigations into what caused violent acts at schools. And so, when we were having the budget negotiations, when we restored every dollar of school safety funding, something that was a priority of the House Republicans, it's also, how do you get these schools to cooperate with these investigations so that if there is another mass casualty event at a school, something we hope never happens, and then the school districts start interfering with the investigation or refusing to cooperate, it makes it a lot harder for lawmakers to craft solutions to stop those things from ever happening again. So this language was something that that was put in there on purpose to try to ensure that that we learned everything we needed to learn if we ever have to conduct another one of those investigations. And my hope is that the school districts take the money, right? I mean, we have over $300 million set aside for school safety and some of it for counselors and school resource officers. And my hope is that they'll cooperate with investigations into bad things that happen at their schools. I mean, if their position is we don't want to cooperate with these investigations, I don't think a lot of people would agree with their position. So, we'll see what happens with the lawsuit, and we're ready to, work with the governor on crafting different language if that's what the court says needs to happen. But, I think the goal here is a very positive goal, something Josh Shriver really has been working on, which is, how do we get these school districts to cooperate with these investigations? Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, we spoke to you yesterday about conflict we received from the Michigan Department of State saying that one of the makers of a shift of IT systems to DTE. They said that it codified their existing policies and practices. You said that the language would be enforced. How would you compel the department to follow that?
how do we compel? So, yeah, I mean, the idea here is Jocelyn Benson. You know, we've had to change a lot of laws because of Jocelyn Benson breaking laws. I mean, you know, one of the main things that's brought us together is how to deal with her poor job of implementing IT. I mean, you saw, you know, Winnie Brinks called me and said, I know we're not moving a lot of bills, but I really need you to move this legislation to extend our deadline on the filings because the website doesn't work. And I said, okay, I guess I'll do it for you, Winnie. And we did. And the Republicans and Democrats came together because we had to kind of deal with this mess that Jocelyn Benson created on IT. So after that, I think we all got together and very quickly agreed we can't have her managing IT anymore. And the Democrats agreed, the Republicans agreed, the governor agreed, and that is enforceable in the bill. And so I think she's going to have to be dealing with the other departments of government, right? I mean, I don't think she can just write her own checks. I don't think, you know, so I think that'll start to play out, work, you know, from department to department in the administration. That's also something that Ann Boland and Jada Boyer and their committees are going to be zeroed in on is bringing in the Secretary of State, bringing in DTMB, and pushing to ensure that this is addressed. I mean, there's a lot of things when, you know, we made a lot of changes in this budget. It takes a little while to implement those changes. I mean, we're bringing back the state workers, you know that. We're going to make those occupancy levels 80%, and they're going to end leases, and they're going to bring many more state workers back. Well, that's going to take some time to implement too. So, you know, she's incorrect in what she's saying, Benson. The DTMB will be taking over her IT. She's demonstrated over and over that she fails at managing things. And so they will take it over, and it will be much different than the process now, and it may take some time to play out. And we're going to continue to monitor that through the Oversight Committee and the Appropriations Committee, and we expect the Whitmer administration to enforce the law in the budget, and they will. Other questions? I'll just say on this, I mean, I think it's pretty significant when you look at this program being capped at $50 million a year. I mean, you look at, you know, these cash up front programs that Whitmer's done. I mean, they've paid out hundreds of millions of dollars per project. So the idea of capping this at $50 million a year is going to get much better value for the taxpayers. It's also going to ensure that you know, all kinds of businesses benefit. I think it was really important that this isn't a project where 4 or 5 businesses that Quentin Messer picks get the benefit. This is something everyone can aspire to, but they have to create jobs, and they have to create higher paying jobs than the average wage. And they need to perform, and once they perform, they'll get the benefit. So I really want to compliment Representative Tisdale.
And if I could,
yeah, go ahead.
again, it's very important here. This is funded out of incremental dollars. We're giving away dollars, or we're investing dollars that we don't currently have. So if you want to grow and increase the state's tax base, you know, we're there to help you with that, and to present a reward and an incentive.
Right. So I want to really compliment Representative Tisdale and Rep. Hoadley for all the work they've been doing on this, because they've been working hard on it. We wouldn't have a shot at getting this done before the end of the year unless the both of you have been working on this for a long time. So it's good they introduced it today, and this will be our focus over the next few weeks. To come back in December when the legislature is back and have something hopefully in place that we can get signed into law. So thank you, everyone, and I will see you again very soon. I don't know if I'll give you guys a hunting break or not. I might be back next week. We'll see. We'll see if you guys will show up. So thanks, everybody.
Did I mention the vase thing?
Yeah.
I did, okay.